The advertisement he placed, the title of it was, "I will not sell this to a dealer." Well, I'm a dealer. I wasn't going to lie to him. So I called him up and said, listen, my wife and I have 6 kids. This is my daughter, Sydney, the oldest of the 2 girls. And the story we want to tell you today revolves about the 7th child of the family, Betty Lou. As I've mentioned before, we're a big Ford family, and buying your child's first car is a pretty big deal, especially to them. All our kids graduated in Naples, Florida. Even though Naples is not considered rural, we've got some kids that might be considered rednecks. Sydney would fall in that category somewhat. It's really hard to get her to wear shoes, even now that she's in her 30s. I remember her being a little girl coming home one day, coming up the front steps, and she had one shoe on. I said, did you lose a shoe? She said, nope, I found one. So that's her. We're a Ford family. Sydney's grandfather and great-grandfather were with Ford their whole career. So when it comes time to look for a first car for our kids, we were looking for Fords. Sydney really wanted a truck or an SUV. I drove a '74 Bronco, baby blue Bronco, in college. Matter of fact, Sydney made me a ceramic replica of it in her high school ceramics class. I still have it today. But my wife and I decided that old of a vehicle might not be the safest choice. They don't have airbags, they don't have anti-lock brakes. And that second generation Bronco, even 16, 17 years ago, had gotten pretty expensive. Sydney had a wakeboard bench project that she had worked on and made several $1,000s, and she was going to put that towards her car. So we started the quest, and once we told her she couldn't have a first generation Bronco because of the airbags and whatnot, she did a little homework and found out that the first year that Ford put airbags in the Bronco was a '94. Ironically, she was born in 1994. So naturally, that was the choice, a '94 Bronco. So the search began to get her Bronco by the time she's 16 years old. Back then, it was mostly eBay and Craigslist. So she would search. I'd come home from work, she would present me with the options, and the miles were too high, or it was up north, I didn't want to have any rust, tried to stay in the southern states. We were okay with distance. We had no problem traveling, but we just wanted to find the right one. And of course, we had a budget. I didn't want a high mile vehicle, and I didn't want, like I said before, I didn't want one that had been exposed to the northern salt and whatnot. So one day I came home and she presented Betty Lou. Betty Lou was in Phoenix, Arizona, and I can't tell you the gentleman we bought it from, I'll get into that later, but just did some phenomenal things that made the story we knew this was the one. The advertisement he placed in the Craigslist, I think it was the title of it was, "I will not sell this to a dealer." Well, I'm a dealer. I wasn't going to lie to him. So I called him up and said, listen, we're a Ford family. This is my daughter's first vehicle. I am a dealer, but I'm not buying this to flip. This car will be her car. She saved her money. We made the decision. If we can cut a deal, we're keeping this vehicle. And apparently he believed me. How much was he asking?
He was asking like 7.
And what did we settle at?
6.
6,000?
Yeah.
Truck had 70,000 miles on it when we found it. He agreed to $6,000. We sent him the money, put time in our schedule, and we flew to Phoenix. Met this gentleman in the parking lot of the Phoenix airport, examined the truck, and we were thrilled. So we gave the gentleman a ride back to his house. We've got a picture of us standing in front of the Bronco, in front of his house, big cactus there. And that was the beginning of our trip back to Naples, Florida from Phoenix. The gentleman who we bought it from couldn't believe we were going to make that road trip. So we got to his house, dropped him off, and while we were checking some things out, when we opened it, we were surprised to find 3 bins, storage bins, in the back. I asked him what we had here, and he said that was stuff for our road trip. He was so concerned with our trip that he had 1 bin with blankets and pillows to make sure we were comfortable, or if we broke down in the desert, at least we would survive the night. The next bin was full of supplies for the Bronco, windshield wiper fluid, a couple cans of oil, jumper cables, fan belts, wiper blades, anything we might need for the trip was in the next bin. And the last was a cooler full of drinks, waters, sodas, snacks, anything we might need for this several thousand-mile trip. We parted company and decided that driving straight back to Naples would be kind of boring. So our first stop was?
We went to the Grand Canyon. I've never been to Grand Canyon before.
And I hadn't either.
Yeah, and it was like right there.
Yep.
So.
Yep. So we did a couple hours out of Phoenix north to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, it was in November.
Yep.
Which my birthday's in November, so I think I had just turned 15.
Yep. You just had gotten your learner's permit.
Yeah.
And the plan was for her to get a bunch of experience in the car that she was going to be driving. So this was a good way to do it.
He taught me how to parallel park on the side of the Grand Canyon. He's like, don't mess this one up.
Yep. So we spent the night at the Grand Canyon. I remember we woke up the next morning.
Oh, yeah.
And there was frost on the windshield. It was 13 degrees or
13 degrees, yeah.
Of course, being from Naples, Florida, she'd never seen that before, so that was kind of interesting.
Most I brought was like a hoodie.
Yeah.
I was freezing. Yeah. But he had to take his credit card and scrape the ice off the windshield.
Yep. And,
yeah, the back window used to have the strips across that were heated, so it like melted it.
Yep.
But you don't need that down here.
It's probably the only time it was ever used. But anyway, so we did the first night at the Grand Canyon, headed through New Mexico.
Oh, where did we stop?
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe.
We did Santa Fe one night.
It was a cool little town.
Yep. Remember where we ate that night?
Subway.
Yeah.
There's
the only thing
place
open. We got it kind of
Subway.
late. Spent the night in Santa Fe and then went
through Texas. We stayed there one night, woke up the next morning, and took us a full day to get through Texas.
From one end to another, yep.
That was crazy. There's just wide open roads forever.
Yeah, speed limit's 80 miles an hour out there.
My dad let me drive for a while, and I got up to, I don't know how fast it goes, but the speedometer was resting.
Pegged the needle.
Rested on it.
But I think it pegs at 85 or
No, I was going at least 100.
Okay.
But he said I had to slow down.
So what's the statute of limitations on speeding?
I have a picture of my dad driving when we were in Texas, and he's, got the steering wheel in his one hand, a map across the front of him, his cell phone like this. Because we didn't have the cell phones that said, have Siri tell you, oh, turn right here, turn left there.
No navigation.
Yeah, so we had used a map.
Old school navigation.
Yeah. Was it Louisiana we stayed the night?
Yep, we stayed in Louisiana a night and hopped on I-10 through New Orleans, across the southern states there, across the Gulf of America, got into the Panhandle. Our oldest boy, Luke, was in college at the time in Tallahassee, so we stopped there and had lunch with him.
Yep.
And of course, I needed my afternoon nap, so I-10 goes east-west there, and then when it hits 75, we go south to Naples. But I'd fallen asleep after lunch. Sydney was driving. She missed the turn to I-75. I woke up and we were a few miles from Jacksonville.
I had remembered from a family trip us always going through Jacksonville on the way home. So I saw a sign for Jacksonville. I'm like, oh, that's how I get home.
Had to do a U-turn through the median.
We switched drivers for that.
That set us back a couple hours. But anyways, the success of the trip was just nothing. I've never experienced such a wonderful time. Getting your teenage kid in a locked down where you can talk to him is pretty hard to do, but she had to talk to me because
we weren't just on our phones all the time.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You're not on your phone, you're not scrolling. So you're talking to each other, and it was our bond was so much stronger after that trip that going forward I decided I need to do that with the rest of the kids. And that's another story, but we did cross-country road trips with all the kids in some fashion or another. But anyway, so we got Betty Lou home, got our license plate, and she drove it through high school. Then she went to go to college at Liberty University in Virginia, and we decided that probably college environment wasn't a place for a vehicle that we had planned on keeping forever. We put her in storage for a little while, and we bought her a little inexpensive Explorer to take to school that we wouldn't mind if it got beat up a little bit in the school parking lot. Her sister Marina needed a car for high school, so we decided Sydney was kind enough to let Marina drive Betty Lou for a couple years in high school.
Well, we had a bigger age gap, so I kind of felt bad I didn't get to see her when she was in high school as much, and I was off in college, and she needed a car, and it was in storage, so I thought it'd be a nice sisterly gesture.
And it was.
It was.
Until she rear-ended somebody.
A little bit better of a driver, but...
She had a little incident. We had to put a front bumper on Betty Lou, but the damage was minor. The other car was a little more significant because it was sat low and the bumper went over the top, but we got a call from Morgan & Morgan, and our insurance company had to write a check for that one.
Also, have my brother rear-ended me in it too.
Yeah, we had a little incident. Her brother Ben had a F-150, and they drove separately to school because they both had sports after school. And Ben, who has a hard time paying attention, he ran in the back of her and went around her and went on to school like nothing happened.
So I have a new back glass
So
too.
we had to do a new back glass on Betty Lou for that. Cindy eventually, after college, moved to Alaska with her husband, who was in the Coast Guard. Then they got transferred to Hawaii. Betty Lou went into storage for all that time.
Well, no, we pulled it out when I first moved back down here. I got back into this for my car, and I drove this to work.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then I got rid of my other car. This was my main car. It was either we had too many cars. I wasn't gonna sell this one, so I sold my other one. And so I started driving this for probably about a year. My son, he was like 2 at the time, loved it. I put his car seat in the back. He liked it because when he was backwards, he could see out the back window. And
You know, in my career, I've flipped 30,000 cars, and this is the only one that we've decided to keep for good. My dream is that when her little boy Riley turns 16, that could be his first car.
unless he drives like his dad. Because his dad at 16, I had to pull him out. The water was coming in the windows of his truck. But Riley's, he's a different kind of kid. He's very particular and he loves cars and very responsible already at only 3 years old. So I think
He'll be able to
he'll
handle
be
it.
able to handle this and
Yeah.
take care of it a little bit more than maybe his dad did at 16.
He might not be thrilled with the fact that he's driving a car named Betty Lou, but we'll see. So we've got many more road trip stories about buying cars. Make sure you like and subscribe. We've got some other exciting guests coming. We got my buddy Damon coming to tell a story about our Lamborghini Murcielago project and many more.